stunning. So we are at the Black Women in Business panel, and I'm your chair, Toby Orridon, and I'll tell you a bit about myself. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a bit about my panelists, co-speakers. So starting with Ruby Jade Aiku. So Ruby is the co-founder and head of PR for Vamp UK, a social marketing agency created by 3 black women, focused on diversity inclusion in beauty, lifestyle and entertainment industries. Her clients include Disney, Universal Music, Palmer's and many more. Over the past 18 months, Vamp has worked on the PR release for Black Panther, A Wrinkle in Time, developing an important place in the UK film publicity by ensuring that black talent and platform have access to the releases important to them. This is including organising press release, competition tickets to the European premiere of Black Panther and hosting a Q&A with the Wrinkle in Time cast featuring Ava DuVernay and Oprah. Ooh, okay. Acknowledging the power and influence of UK bloggers and tastemakers, Vamp UK has developed a strong influencer network and filled with some of the biggest black influencers in the UK, connecting with big brands, big and small brands. So, next up is Florence Adepoju. So, at 22, with a Bachelor of Science Honours degree in Cosmetic Science from London College of Fashion, this trailblazer set up the cult beauty brand known as MDM Flow. During her time at London College of Fashion, Flo worked part-time as a beauty assistant and was exposed to several luxury brands. While working on these brands, she became obsessed with a particular niche in the market. She established makeup giants weren't experimenting with new technology, and of course, they weren't producing exciting and inclusive colour palettes that worked on black and Asian skin. With her bold range of lipsticks inspired by the glamour associated with hip-hop music and street culture, Flo has single-handedly created one of the most innovative brands in the modern era. It's clear to see why Forbes included her in their 2018 Top 30 Under 30 podcast series. MDM Flow is stocked in Boots.com, Harvey Nichols, Pretty Little Thing, and sends a very clear message: be you, loud and proud. Since launching MDM Flow, Flow is on a personal mission to address the lack of women in science and STEM careers and has a special place for, of course, black girls. And me, I co-founded the platform Black Ballad UK, a media platform in Britain to help black women live their best lives. I set up this platform because black women were invisible from the offices and represented in an inauthentic way in the pages. We launched in 2014 and transitioned into a membership service in 2016, and we did that with a crowdfund, and we raised £11,000 in 6 weeks. Oh, thanks. 95% of our members are black women, so thank you all who are here, who pay a monthly or annual fee to access our content, discounts to black-owned brands that we've partnered with, MDM Flow's one, and discounts to our events. And we now pay all of our female black freelancers, most of who are writers, and this helps level out the British journalism field where black journalists are 15 times underrepresented. Along with my co-founder this year, I was on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for media and marketing, and I recently was on the list of the country's most respected journalists. So hello, ladies.
Hello. Hey,
how you doing?
We're good, thank you.
Okay, let's get into this. So I think the first place, the most obvious place, is to start with, how did you both get into your respective fields and industries? And I'll throw it out to Flo first.
Okay, so I started working in the beauty industry at around the age of 17. I was in college. I was walking past a makeup counter one day and I got traffic stopped. The manager tried to sell me products. I told her I couldn't afford it, and so she asked me if I needed a job. I said yes, and yeah, that was my first job in the industry. And at the time, I was hoping, well, I think more so my parents were hoping that I was going to go into a career in pharmacy, but I decided that I wanted to address some of the issues within the beauty industry, and that led me to studying cosmetic science at the London College of Fashion.
And Ruby?
I started, I did PR at uni, I did media and communications at uni, and I knew I wanted to go into PR. Whilst I was at uni, I was on a placement year, and my business partner said, like, let's start a business. And she worked at Google at the time, and she really was doing a lot of work trying to reach millennials, and we felt like we could do that. So we set up the business whilst we were on placement year. We all finished uni and then got grad jobs, got about 6 months into our grad jobs, and was like, nope, can't do this anymore, we want to focus on BAMP. And yeah, we decided to focus on diversity inclusion. So for the past year and a half, that's been our focus.
Okay, cool. So you both, transitioned like out of uni to your respective industries. So when was the time you both felt that your side hustles, your passions could be viable businesses? Like, when was that decision for you guys? Like, what was the sign?
I'd say, I don't even know that now. Whilst in uni, I tried so many different careers within the beauty industry. So I worked on makeup counters, I worked for a PR agency for 1 week, I hated it, I left. I did a graduate role in product development. And even in retail, I just worked for so many different brands. And so I think every time I was kind of looking for the place that I could be that would allow me to essentially do what I'm doing now with MDM Flow. And I think not being able to find that position in the different roles that I did slowly had this feeling of maybe you should just be focusing on your own thing. And then when I created MDM Flow and I was still working full time and I wasn't able to fully be myself in the jobs that I was doing, thinking, well, you'd be able to fully be yourself if you're working on MDM Flow full time. And so there was never a defining moment, but it was just these small messages that I had within all the things that I tried to do before I actually went full time with my business.
I think mine was twofold. My grad job was in tech PR, so really different to what I do now. And I used to see my colleagues get really excited about when they'd get releases and when they get really great coverage. And I just wouldn't get that feeling. I'd only get that feeling when I was doing stuff for my side hustle. And our first job was working with Smashbox, and we held a masterclass. It was one of the first time they'd ever done a masterclass, and it was sold out, and we had loads of influencers there, and we were talking to them, and they were like, we don't get invited to events, we never ever come to events like this. And at the time we were managing an influencer, and we were like, that's actually really true. We see all these events going on, but we don't see black faces there. We see all these amazing content creators at home, doing great things, but aren't being represented at these events. And so that event was probably the turning point for us, because we were like, we need to see more faces, we need to see more events catered to us, and more brands looking at us and noticing, the creativity and the influence that our black influencers have. So that was a really, really key moment for me.
Cool. And a lot of people who are coming here, I'm assuming because you want to get tips and stuff, and you might be doing a side hustle. Now, you're both full-time at your businesses, right? What is that process of jumping from a side hustle to full-time going into it? Because that is a huge and scary part, and I think the part that most people struggle with, possibly. So, how was that journey for you, Ruby?
For me, and I like my story because I'm probably what not to do. So my business partner, she quit her job last January, and she was like, Rubes, save before you quit. And I was like, yeah, I will. And I did a bit, but nowhere near enough. And I think there's a lot of talk about, just jumping into your dream, but you have to be smart about it. And I was a little bit smart, but not as smart as I could have been. And I think I just had to take that leap. I just didn't feel that passion at work, and I just felt like I just wasn't 100% there. And I was stretching myself too thin, trying to be at work and also do the side hustle. So I thought, let me just try it. But I do regret doing it at the time I did, because I think I could have saved a little bit longer, and maybe not struggled at the beginning as much as I did, but everything happens for a reason, so.
Yeah, definitely second that statement of save as much as you can, and also ensure that your business or your project or whatever you're working on is bringing in enough, not only to maintain itself, but also to cover your costs. At the time at which I made that decision, well, I kind of made it a couple of times. So I did a job, then I decided I can go full time, and then I was like, no, I'm not ready. And then I got another job where I like moved to Middlesex for a job, and it was just such an insane time because I was working from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in my job, and then coming home in the evening, and then having to run my business till like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then on the weekends driving back to Essex because that's where my lab is based at home. And so it wasn't sustainable. And so I thought, okay, what are the sacrifices that I can make? Like, my business is making a little bit of money at this point. So I quit the job, I moved back home with my parents, which I think sometimes, like, I'm like African, I'm Nigerian, and it can be really like hard decision to make to move back home. It was really hard for me to make that decision, but I thought if I really want to make this happen, I need to really cut down my costs and make that sacrifice. And again, I'm privileged to be in a position where I can move back home because not everyone can do that. So that's something that I did. And even when I was back home, again, like, my business not being at where I thought it should be meant that I got another job, and I did that for a while. And I'd also like to say that even if you do go full time and you realise that you can't maintain it, like, there's no shame in getting more work or doing other things on the side to try and, because you need to be able to sustain yourself, even to have like the frame of mind to be able to like think up new things and create creative solutions for whatever it is you're doing.
We're kind of edging towards that topic of money. And money, you know, we can all say what we want, but money makes the world go round. How have you acquired money for your business? Like, have you had to pitch to investors, or has it been like building up that client base? So what I wanted to get out of you both is, what is your tips for pitching? Like, if you're going to pitch to an investor, if you're going to pitch to a client, what would you say to do and not to do?
So in 2016, I had a bit of money put into my business to help me with stock. And there's like certain things that I did, like obviously you need to be very confident about what you're creating, you need to look at your numbers, you need to forecast, which is essentially like at the beginning estimating how much you can do, but also looking at the traction that you have and seeing how like big that can go. But one thing as well, I'll say, as much as you're selling your business and your idea and your concept, when you're pitching investors, it's also important that it's a two-way thing. Yep. And like see it as dating. Like they need to, this is someone who is going to be in your business for the long haul. So they need to understand, you know, what you're working on, and especially if you're working on something personal to black women, you need an investor that understands that and understands the value of that. I've had issues where I've had to explain the reason why, like, I need to, you know, be a solution for something that was the reason why I created my business in the first place. But that is the conversation that you need to have with investors and ensure that they're on board, so that when you are impressed and there's an article that says lipsticks for black women, your investor's not calling you up and saying, what does this article mean? So those are the kind of things I think you need to think about.
I agree, because like chipping in, we had a meeting with a potential investor, and I think that was the lesson that I learned, is that like, as much as, you know, you need your investor also wants you, and you shouldn't be afraid to say no. Because I actually ran Florence after the meeting, and a potential investor said to me and my co-founder Bola, they saw a video that I made for the crowdfunding, and it was like, you know, you could be, you know, you're a little bit angry, aren't you? And I was just like, as an investor, I was like, and me and my co-founder looked at each other and were like, this might not be the investor for us. And then afterwards it was like, why is Black Ballers not for black men? Black men go through so much. And I think, like, just jumping off of that, like, I know there's a whole debate around if black businesses should stay black owned, but sometimes you do have to get an investor that isn't black. And I don't think there's actually anything wrong with that, but like what you said, what I'm showing this is that your investor must understand what your business is, and like, you know, and for me, one thing I find, because my co-founder's a man, investors tend to be white and male, they will talk to my co-founder, and my co-founder has to do a lot of deflecting, like, and that's something, and that's one thing I pick up on if I'm talking to a man as an investor. If you're just talking to my co-founder and we have an hour of deflection to me, you are not the right person to invest in my business. So like, don't be afraid to say no if you've created a business. Like, you spent hours creating your business plans and, you know, your network, so don't be afraid to say no. So pitching to clients, like, what's the advice for that?
So pitching to clients, especially for us, we were essentially a new service. So there's PR agencies, there's loads of PR agencies, especially in London, that particularly work in the entertainment business, loads and loads and loads and loads. But we were essentially the first to cater to diversity and inclusion, and it was about finding out how much our competitors, you know, charge, and trying to work out whether do we charge the same, do we charge less because we're new, but then at the same time we know we're going to do a good job, so we should charge what we're owed. But our first job was Girls Trip, and honestly, like full honesty, we didn't know how much to charge. We just literally made up a number. And from there, that's actually how we worked it out, and I would not recommend doing that. But you know, find out how much your competitors are charging, and like if it's a huge agency that have 10 people working on, you know, 2 accounts or so, there's 3 of us in the team, so our costs are not going to be the same as them. There's literally 3 of us in the team. Our costs are not going to be the same. You know, our time isn't the same. You know, we've been working in this industry for 2-3 years. These people have been doing it for 10-20 years, but at the same time, our service is needed. So you have to try that struggle to work out. You don't want to undervalue yourself, but at the same time, you want to do the job, you want to make sure it's done right. So I think it's just definitely about researching. You've got to find your way in, find out how much those people cost, cut a little bit if it means that you're going to get the job, and then work your way up. So, you know, our prices now are so different to when we worked in Girls Trip, because we have Girls Trip and all the other jobs that we've done to fall back on and show, like, look, this is our value, so you're paying for, this is what you're paying for. So I think it's about that research and not feeling like just because you're new, you shouldn't be paid, you know, what you're due.
So I've obviously opened up about, I suppose, I hate to say the disadvantage of being a black woman in business, but is there been a time where someone said to me the other day, it's a great time to be a black woman? And I was like, kind of get what you mean. It's always great to be a black woman, actually. But like at the same time, I was kind of like, so do you mean that there's going to not be a so good time to be a black woman? So has your race and gender been an advantage at any point in your business? And how can we see that as an advantage in business?
I would say that black women and black people have always been, especially in creative industries, but in a lot of industries, very intrinsically cool. And for some reason, our coolness is commercialized, and we're not the ones making that money. And I think right now, because of like social media, and because like it's just a lot of processes are a lot more transparent, and you're able to see the people behind things. For me, it's been a massive advantage. And I know that with my brand, I've had really big brands in the industry copy my packaging design. Like, I've ran it to you loads. Like, I've known Toby since I was 16, so like we're always on the phone together. People copy my package design. My brand is very hip-hop inspired. I've had very like classic mainstream brands like call their lipsticks Hot Mama and stuff like that to try and be down. But you can just Google and you know who's behind it, and you know the conglomerate that owns it. But when I'm speaking to my customer, they understand. I have women DMing me on Instagram all the time saying, I've never wore a bright lipstick shade before, I really want to try pink. I know they trust me so much more than those brands that are just trying to like get that concept. So I think for me, despite all the things that I face as a black woman in business, because of my customer, I'm always being validated, and that for me makes this moment really incredible. I think for us, I think the past year has been amazing for us, because I guess we got quite lucky that a lot of the films that we've worked on have been an all-black cast.
The mastermind behind Black Panther UK press, like, let's give it up for you. That was
and we got, it was really good timing, because if we started the business 2 years before, like, I can't even think. I actually looked up like sort of black films that have come out the past couple of years, and last year and this year has the most black films that have come out in like 10 years. So it was a really good time for us to start the business. But yeah, so this year has meant that, these studios don't have anyone else to turn to, and sometimes they think they can do it on their own. They think that, you know, we still have it now. They will use their usual agencies to do their press releases and do their press launches. And then there will be ones who will hold their hands up and be like, look, we actually don't know how to do this, and we need you. We know that you guys can do this. You know, you have the platforms, and it's not just about just finding all like top black press or top black journalists. It's more than that. It's about finding the right journalists and like knowing that they're speaking about the topic that's going to be, you know, important to that film or that release. So I think we have been, I don't want to say luck, I would say God, whatever it is, it's been a good time for us to put ourselves in that industry and say, look, you need us, you should use us, make sure things are done properly, make sure you're not just doing token bits. Like Black Panther was, we put so much work into it. We put way more work than what we were paid for because of what it was. It was more than just a Marvel release. We told them when we met with them, like, okay, this is a Marvel film for you guys, but that's not it for us. This is more than that. This is like a film for us. And so it meant that we had to push and do things that were way up, we weren't supposed to be doing, but it meant that, you know, we had press there that we wanted to have. We wanted to make sure there was consumers there that got to go to the premiere. We pushed for so much because it was more than just a release, and so we've been really lucky. So I think, yeah.
Would you say Black Panther's been the highlight of your career so far? And if not, what has been the highlight?
Yes and no. It was because obviously what it was, but I guess my no is the month after we worked on A Wrinkle in Time, and it was that time just meshed into one because it was over about 6 weeks. So yeah, I think the highlight would be A Wrinkle in Time when we hosted the Q&A with Oprah and Ava, and that was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. Oprah smells amazing. She smells incredible. You know, being in a room with them, it was like just about 30 people and then the crew, and then the cast. And every time any of them was speaking, but particularly Oprah, like it was dead silent. Like everyone was just taking in her aura, and it was amazing. So that is probably the highlight of my year and probably like of my life. Yeah.
Flo, what's been your highlight?
My highlight would be, I'd say 2016, which is like a huge amount of time, but in that year I went from the previous year, 2015 was when I left my job at around April to go into the business full time, because you kind of get to a point when you're running your own business where you're like, I really know this is going to work. I just don't know how. I don't know what it is I need to do. I'm just going to try everything. So I did a lot of trying loads of things in 2015, and then in 2016, I just got into like loads of retailers. I had an insane amount of press. And near the end of that year, I got to go to Australia and launch my brand in Australia. And Australia is one of those places I never ever thought I'd ever go to, like legit 24 hours flying. And yeah, and I launched in around 24 stores out there, and I trained a team of like 100 staff members, and it was just, yeah, really, really insane. So that would definitely be my highlight.
I'm going to say mine. I think a lot of people must think the crowdfund was the highlight. I remember the night of the crowdfund. Our website went down, and people couldn't pay, and my co-founder was flying to America and does a tech side, and I remember someone said, I want to contribute, but I can't pay. And I was like, what do you mean you can't pay? The site crashed, and I swear to God, I've never sweated and cried at the same time. Like, my mum just looked at me and was like, oh, okay. But I think the crowdfund was a highlight, but for me actually, why we charged was because we wanted to pay Black women, and we're nearly at, next month, we'll nearly be at paying 100 Black women. And I think for me, like, why it's such a highlight is because sometimes what starts a passion can really be a business. And I wanted to share that because sometimes your passion can be a business. You've just got to have a business plan in place. And I think one thing I've realised is that I was more of a reluctant entrepreneur. And I don't know about you guys, if you were born with an entrepreneur mind, or it was something you fell into, because I'm not naturally an entrepreneur, but learning about how, like, you know, you have the KPIs and your forecast and your business plan, and learning all of that, and like being able to pay people has been a highlight for me. So like, I actually need to share as well. And we have all these amazing highlights, and I think what social media has done, I think people have conflated profitability with popularity. And I think that's something that we should talk about if we're going to talk about business. I think people think that you have, you know, if you have like 11,000 followers on Twitter, that must mean you have 7,000 paying subscribers. That is not it. How do you keep grounded in business, because I think we do live in an age where we should be celebrating each other, but sometimes I think people feel like big strides are being made and you're like, you know what, no, I'm not there yet. And what sacrifices have you made to make your businesses work?
So I guess a sacrifice for my sanity. But besides that, honestly, I think doing the work we do, because of this year, I was saying to my mum literally the other day, we've had a crazy year. We had, at the top of the year, we had Black Panther and Wrinkle in Time, and we've had some things in between. It's been a really great year. But because of those highlights, it feels like you have to continue. You have to constantly reach those highlights, and it's almost impossible to do. And that can be really, really, it can make you really down. It can really affect your mental health, and it'll make you feel like a failure, even though most definitely not. And so, honestly, that's probably what's kept me grounded. Like, okay, you need to keep going and find those success points and find those highlights. And those highlights aren't going to be always the same level, but it's about what's a highlight for you and us as a business. So for us, it's infiltrating a new industry. For us, it's, you know, working with a brand that we've never seen do a campaign with black girls, or never seen do a campaign that's really inclusive. Those sort of things, like, they might seem small in comparison to, you know, some of the big things we've done, but for us, it's, you know, it's ticking that goal, that box, and our purpose as a business. As long as we're always doing our purpose, then that's a highlight for us. And, you know, if there's ever a month where we haven't done that, that's when we're like, okay, let's get back on it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, running a business, especially full time, is so hard. It's tough physically, it's tough mentally. I'd say the things that I have in my life that keep me going is like support network. So definitely have amazing friends, and like we share the same office sometimes, but they're never in the office because they're always running around doing stuff. But yeah, just have people who you can talk to about how your business is going. Like Toby and her co-founder Bola, like I'm actually in a text chain with the both of them, and like I text them, I think last week or the week, and I was just like, I don't want to run my business anymore. And then
She did. I called her and said, you have no choice but to keep going.
yeah, she literally called me straight back. But you need, because you can't, like, if I posted that on the MDM Flow Instagram page, like, it would just be crazy. But like, I have Toby who I can send that to, and then she can call me and be like, what's up, what's going on, here's how you get through it. Like, at the beginning of my business, for the first 2 years, I really tried to do everything myself without any support. And that was when I saw the least amount of growth. And the moment I allowed other people in to help me and to build me up and to connect me with people, that's when I saw things start to change. I'm in a few WhatsApp groups with other entrepreneurs that kind of help me, like, with lots of amazing opportunities, or if you just need a safe space to talk about the things that you're going through. Podcasts, like, it's amazing to listen. Actually, one of my favorite podcasts is Short Story Long, and they're hour-long episodes of creative entrepreneurs literally talking about where they were born, to where they went to school, to where they studied at uni, and just seeing that journey of like, wow, like, it didn't take, because I think now when you look at mainstream business press, it's like, oh, it took 5 years to be a massive success, or 10 years, or like, oh, Instagram, but it's like, actually no, the founder of that company is 45 years old. It took them 45 years, and really understanding that it's gonna take as long as it's going to take, so give yourself the time, and yeah, just have people around you to build you up.
And you've both kind of touched, you said sanity and you said support networks. I think, you know, what about the personal sacrifices that come with running a business? Like, I've been very open, like, we sacrificed our mortgage to run Black Ballad, and for me that was a huge thing. Like, I had to really think about, and it wasn't something I was completely comfortable with, actually. I was like, I've done my part, like, you know, and I think, you know, that sacrifice was really, really hard, and that's infiltrated, you know, personal life. So how do you guys manage to balance your personal life with running a business? Because it's not a job that you can shut the door on. Like, you said it yourself, like, Instagram and social media makes your business 24/7. So how do you manage that?
So my business partners are actually my friends. I met them at uni, so it means that my business life and my personal life have completely like joined. So our group chat is mixed with work and nonsense, and it's been we've all had to sacrifice a lot. So for me, it's been that stability of having a full-time job. I went from having a full-time job for 11 months, which meant that I had my savings, I was giving my mum money, all of that, to not having that. And that stability really, I have really bad anxiety with things I'm not expecting, and I didn't prepare myself for that. And so to go from having constant money, constant income, disposable income to go on holidays and do all the things that you want to do as a young person, to not being able to do that, and not being able to give my mum money every month, that's been really hard for me. And I'm really grateful. She's really supportive. She's like, just make sure it works. And she really believes in me, which comforts me, so I know that I don't have to feel too guilty that I can't support her the way I want to. But just knowing that my business partners are there and going through the struggle together definitely does help. And I guess just having that goal at the end of the tunnel, knowing that this is all for a purpose, it's all for a purpose, it's all for a purpose. But as you grow, so I've managed to go on 2 holidays this year, so it's not bad. It's not bad. It meant I had to save a lot longer, and it meant I can't go on spontaneous holidays anymore. Like when my friends are like, "Oh, do you want to go on holiday this week?" And I'm like, "How? Where's the money?" But it's all trivial stuff. It's that stuff can happen later, and I can wait.
Yeah, what is balance? It's hard to, I personally find it really hard to find balance. I think especially when you really, really love what you do as well. So you don't, even when you're like, I'm really tired, I should be asleep, but you're like, oh, but I just need to send this one email. It's really hard. I've sacrificed, I guess, a lot of personal relationships, so friendships, and friendships are such a weird thing because you have friends and you meet them and you think, I'm going to be friends with you forever, and then you're like, oh, I can't spend £100 at dinner, I just can't. And then so it starts off with oh yeah, I can't come to that, oh, it was at your birthday but I can't, and then you just slowly kind of drift, and then you're like, oh wow, I was really close to that person and now I haven't seen them in X amount of time. And also I think some people find it difficult with the changes that happen to you as an entrepreneur. You go through so much growth, personally, and you think so differently. I think you can't be an entrepreneur without really having a growth mindset, and some people don't want to have those kind of conversations or don't want to be in that space, so it's difficult to maintain that. And I think even it's anyone who's close to you, it's really hard for what you do to not impact them. So like you said, with parents, my parents are very traditional and very academic, and I have been super academic my whole life, so it's very difficult for them to see me first of all make the decision to not go down a certain career path and then be in such a career with such instability. Personal relationships, if you're in a relationship or if you're married, the person that you're with needs to be able to support you. And again, I found that in certain relationships, without spilling any of my personal tea, it's been very difficult for partners sometimes to take on that supportive role, and sometimes even though you shouldn't, and I always say comparison is the thief of joy, but seeing other people in their situations and being they're in a more kind of normal, I guess if you could call anything normal, setup, so it's easier for them to make things work, whereas you know that you're making those sacrifices for the thing that you love to do, or I guess if you believe in purpose, is your purpose to do.
Sometimes in business you have to shift gears. Example being the founder of Bumble. It was a dating site, and now it's shifted towards a networking site for women. Blackbird was free access. We had to shift to subscription model. Have you ever had to shift your business idea to kind of make it work? And how do you reconcile that with consumers and customers that already love your idea? Have you ever had to do that or make drastic changes?
I'm quite lucky in the sense that my brand's been quite consistent since the beginning, but the only shifts I've had to make really is how I grow the business. So at a certain stage it was very based on retail and partnerships and a lot of business to business, but I felt that the value that my individual customers was getting was diminishing because a lot of retailers weren't really interested in my customer base and my core consumer group, and also in the concept of my brand. So I had to make the decision to stop going through retail channels and focus more on my direct to customers, which in jargon sounds great, but in real life meant that I lost a lot of money, because when a retailer makes a massive order, they're buying hundreds or thousands, but when you're selling directly, you're doing each customer one at a time. And so for me it was really tough, because it meant that in the moment I couldn't get the validation that I could get before, when you get a massive order and it's yes, this is a legitimate business, but also understanding that this is something that I'm doing long term for the growth of my business.
I think our shift was, I guess, when we decided to stop focusing on millennials and start focusing on black women of colour, but mainly black women. It was after we did the Smashbox event and after we did Girls Trip, we were like, no, this is all we need to do. Our main thing was, who knows black women better than black women? There's 3 of us in the team, all black women. We're all from Africa. One of my business partners, she's Zimbabwean, so my other business partner's from Nigeria, so it's a nice little mix. And so we've got loads of friends who give us advice, and all our peers, we all talk about the same, similar things. And it's about taking all those opinions and going to these brands and being like, did you know this? Are you doing this? And that was a big shift for us, because I guess the millennial markets are maybe a bit bigger, it's more palatable for brands as well. They're like, oh yeah, millennials, they want to reach us. But when you say, oh yeah, you're trying to reach black women, they're a bit like, and it's very difficult, and it can be quite disheartening trying to do that. So the shift has not just been big in terms of our business goals, but it's been big in terms of the knocks that we get. It means that we'll probably get a lot more knocks, and it means that we have to pick ourselves up again and keep going. And I always say my job is not done until we see women on billboards, and it's not a crazy thing. It's not something that I'm like, oh my god, it's the first time. We don't want any more firsts. So it was a big shift, but it was a worthwhile shift, and we wouldn't be doing everything we're doing now if we didn't decide to change that.
Leading on from that, I don't know if anyone's wanting to be an entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, or learn about business. A lot of black women's businesses are born out of probably the need to fix a problem that nobody's fixing for us. And when you're going to, whether it be brands or investors, there is that pushback of, can it be women of colour? Can it be white women? And I think one question that I'm assuming some of us might want to know, who want to build businesses, particularly for black audiences, how do you get over that if you've got a white male investor who loves your idea but wants to expand it a little bit more? How do you say no in a polite way? Because, investors, clients, they're all a massive network. How do you say no in a way that's respectful but kind of keeps your options open? Has that ever been a thing for you, and how have you handled that?
I think for us, a lot of these brands like numbers. It's numbers talk. That's what they need to do. And I think, if you're trying to say no, if they're trying to expand your market or expand your business goals, and you want to keep it just for black women or for a particular group, I think it's about showing the numbers. That group that you're trying to spread out to, are they already being accessed? Do they already have things going on for them? Compared to black women, whatever our numbers are, it's always going to be the lowest. It's always going to be the lowest. And I think it's about showing them those numbers. A lot of these investors and these brands, they only respond to results. And I think we've been able to go to them and be like, look, this has never been done before. This is the first time it's been done. So why would we want to take away from that? And you don't want it to be a big PR stunt, but at the same time, even if it's just once a PR stunt, it says a lot. It can be the domino effect. It could be the thing that starts the next thing, and it makes it normal. And so I would just say no. Honestly, we've done it, we've had it, we're just straight, no, we're going to focus on black women. This is what this is for. There's going to be other opportunities. There's always other opportunities for other groups, but for us, it's so limited, and so sometimes it means you have to turn down opportunities, but it means that things are being done authentically, and it means that we're giving ourselves our time. That's why I love like events like this, because it's just our time just to be. And sometimes you just want it, like, why can't we just have things just for us? So that's why I get so annoyed when there's these arguments like, oh, why can't it be, people of colour, why can't we all bring it all together? It's like, no, there will be times for that. Our time is that, and let us just have our time.
I've got really good at saying no, actually, and it's because at the beginning I wasn't, and one thing I found is that if you try and say yes to every opportunity or every idea, then you realise that it starts to become a thing where what you're creating is not even the thing that you wanted to create. So especially like, I guess I have to say the most to like buyers. I've spoken to like one of the biggest beauty retailers in the industry this year, and I had to say no to working with them, and it was because they mentioned an American brand, and they were like, you can be the British version of this. And the moment they said that, and I knew that was what their goal was, I knew that they weren't really interested in what I was actually doing. And something that I've realised over the last few years is that opportunities always will come back around. And so I know that when my brand is in a position where it's stronger and my voice is louder, and they don't feel confident to be able to say to me, you should be someone else, then that will be the right time for me to work with them. But definitely you have to build yourself up, you have to be confident about who you are and what it is you're creating, because that's what then fires up a signal in your mind that says, whatever they're saying is not what I am or what I'm creating, so this just doesn't work. And I think like when you're passionate about something and you're doing something that is authentically you, when someone else comes along and their idea doesn't really marry, you just lose complete interest, and it becomes easier to just be like, this is not the right opportunity, or this is not the right time, or I don't think that this is fully representative of who I am and what I'm trying to do.
Cool. It's almost as if trials and tribulations when chasing your dreams are mandatory, which can make you feel stagnant. But every 6 months, try and note down your successes you've had to remind yourself of all your hard work. It's easy to forget. Florence's advice was, do not let anyone get in the way of accomplishing your goals, not even yourself. And mine would be, there's nothing wrong with being the least talented person in your team. And the reason I say that is because if I have a business, which I do, it has to be amazing. So everyone I employ has to be better than me. Like, it makes sense. And I think in the age of social media, everyone wants to be the star. I don't see how you can have a great business if you're the most talented person, and that's my opinion.